all are the coolest tribe on planet stinking Earth, and you hold the only hope. I mean, one of the only hopes. I mean, there are tribes that don't follow John Kohler.
There are a lot of people doing cool stuff out in the world,
Yeah,
Josh.
well, I was just at the Soil Life Summit, and a lot of those people hadn't heard of you, so they will now, because I filmed like crazy there at that Living Soil Summit.
And I'm still waiting for the footage.
The footage is on Monster Gardens, and you think about it, bro. The hydro industry and how ballsy it is for a grow store to attend a Living Soil Summit. Right?
Yeah.
That which stands in the face of deadrients. Like, how...
I mean, Monster's cool.
Monsters are so cool. Like, Monster have done the industry so many more favors than the industries could ever dream of repaying to Monster. I urge you to support Monster's channel. Like, straight up subscribe. Because, like I said, that's pretty ballsy for a store that sells what its customers ask for. A ton of deadrients. That they have... living soil crusaders who care.
I think we're all in life, we're all like, it's all or nothing, and I think there's always stages.
Well, Monster Gardens.
Good, better, best, right? Hey, this is a lot better than miracle crap, but hey, using maybe some plant-based stuff and some soil humates, I think that's probably also in here. And
in my defense, the Bloom Box and the Bloom Box combos and the Earth Juice product that's a Bloom Box is mostly guano. But even guano, Steve Cantwell, Mr. UFC fighter champion, the man who fights
that's
now.
not sustainable guano.
Exactly. He fights for soil life. And guess what?
The more you learn, you know. The more you learn, you don't know.
The more you know, the more you don't know. And guess what? Your viewers, they're teaching me too.
I'm learning all the time from so many people, man.
So many, bro. And we're in this together. And like I always say, health is our only wealth. I mean, and you look at what happened in Ohio and the corporatocracy that powers it. And you look at everything that your viewers stand for. Your egos are dissolved. You care more about the health of your soil than, like, you know, in my case, the customer always being right. If you look at your comments, the number of haters, like compared to any other YouTube channel, is like the compensators who drive by here in our suburb, right? The louder the tailpipe, the smaller their you-know-what. This gentleman, the Immaculate Church of the mellow profile gardening apostle, who shows up in the places that count and broadcasts to you the only future of humanity, the agri-hood builders. John, our society's pathetic addiction to pharmaceuticals, like we turn to drugs and medications instead of looking at the underlying causes. Isn't that like a vicious cycle, just like it is with soil?
There's all these drug commercials. And the drug commercials never solve the problem. They're always dangling the little bait. Oh, you won't have psoriasis anymore, but you could die because of the side effects. I mean, it's like that with chemicals. I mean, drugs are just chemicals too for our bodies.
They're deadrients for your cells.
Stuff into the soil to kill the soil and mess up the soil that just causes more problems later. It's all the sham.
It's such a sham, dude. We are all waking up to the sham. The petrotocracy that we live in. And I use that analogy all the time. And ironically, isn't that the path that led you to growing greens, right?
I mean, I had to turn my diet around first.
Health
so that I could be healthy and not use all the drugs and not have all those chemicals in my body. So I could eat healthy food, and to get healthy food, I had to start growing it to have a higher quality food than money can buy, even organic food, you know? I mean, I still buy plenty of food until I have acreage and I'm going to grow 99% of what I eat. And, you know, we're all on a journey. So, you know, my message to you guys is just do as much as you can. Offset the food that you're buying, grow your own food, use healthy soil practices, don't use the deadrients, don't use the chemicals. You know, if you eat healthy, you don't need to be on blood pressure lowering drugs, right? If you're on blood pressure lowering drugs, consult your doctor. I'm not going to tell you to get off of them. But what I will say is that I've seen so many people get off their drugs from eating a diet that doesn't cause a high blood pressure, plus doing the other activities like gardening, like getting exercise, getting proper sleep, not stressing out. So many factors are involved with health.
Yeah, when I don't ride bikes, I can literally feel it. You know, I'm middle-aged mammal, middle-aged man in Lycra. And when I ride, I get in motion. Get my brain out of commotion and everything feels right. And that's what we were born to do, not sit in these petrotocracy-fueled coffins of death. You know, it hurts. when I hear about needless deaths on the road, I mean, all that carnage and carnage to our soil that's needless. Like we were in Home Depot today, and what they sell as a plant nutrient and being sold under the guise of a product which is supposed to be beneficial to plant growth, while at the same time actually destroying beneficial soil microbes. And ultimately it renders that same soil lifeless. So that's where I came up with the word deadriant. You know what? Deadriants are for dummies. Don't be a dummy. If people could just follow GYG's examples and actually embrace something healthy, health your only true wealth, and transform those suburbs into agri-hoods instead, John. Grow your food and medicine in your own backyards. Invest in living soil. You know, shouldn't living soil be a currency? That's what I asked Super Steve Cantwell himself. Now he said, nah, pay it forward. Share it like you do. And like we try to do.
We want to get away from currency, actually. I think
Right.
currency's bad news because it's caused like so many problems because people are doing things for currency. Do things for the soil. Do things for your family. Don't do things for currency. So we need to get into more of a trade, I think, you know, kind of economy, a trade economy, you know.
I mean, yeah.
There's been examples of like basically trading time. Like Ithaca, New York had this whole time currency thing where you would trade it. You would give an hour and I would get an hour, and then you could trade an hour of. So everybody's hour was worth the same, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or a person scrubbing toilets.
And did it work?
I haven't seen how that how it worked over. I mean, that was like 20 years ago when I saw that. I was like, wow, that's kind of a cool idea.
This is a powerful moment in America right now. What's happening with Ohio? You know, don't you feel it? I mean,
I've seen a few things on the news, but
So,
I don't really know a ton about it. But I think any kind of chemical spill is really bad, and it's not being taken seriously enough. And
it's not.
You know, and it's like people don't really understand the effect that it may have on them in the future. You know,
oh.
corn's being grown in the area, and then corn's like so many people eat corn-based products, whether it's
like
corn syrup or all these things, and that ends up in a product that was grown or got contaminated, and then what health problems, cancer, who knows what are the diseases it's going to cause in the future, and then you need a drug to fix it.
Right, exactly. Right, because they can't make money off of you by if you're
keeping you well.
You keeping you well. And you know, we're not what we eat, we're what we absorb. And same with the, like you said, the pharmaceuticals, the chemicals that we put in our bodies, and now the chemicals that are being soaked on. Like, would you barter? You were saying about bartering and the valuable currency, which I'm so appreciative of you, Mr. Keeping Up with Himself. Adrenaline addiction of time. This is really valuable time. This is so powerful. Like, you can't put a currency on this time. And this is our time as humans to do everything that's in 1,300 videos and everything also that, you know, like I said, I thought I knew everything about tea, and then your viewers have taught me 10 times more. The more we know and the more we don't know. But you know what we do keep knowing is what a ripoff this petrotocracy lie that we all live in is. And if this incident doesn't make that starkly clear, bro, then what does? Like, how much more denial are you gonna live in? How many of you live near a place where railroad cars can just blow up? People are like, you're too radical, Josh. You know what's radical, John? Is us, our society. Is us just hopping in these things called cars. These machines of death. That's what's radical, bro. Your great-grandparents are rolling in their graves. What have we become, bro?
Chatbot GPT.
We were in Home Depot, and you know, Seth was dragging me out of there, and I got it wrong. They actually stopped using plastic bags. That's the one in Sonoma County.
Here.
In Las Vegas?
They still got plastic bags, dude. Everywhere they got. Unless there's a local law that forbids them to use plastic bags, or still using plastic.
That's 100 billion a year. And when those burn, that's a dioxin bath.
Because the industry's too big, man, on the chemical, the plastic
Is
industry.
How is it too big to fail, bro? It happened in 80 years. It happened since World War II.
It's too much money, dude. It's too much money.
money.
It's too much money, and people live for money. They'll screw people for money. They'll screw the environment for money. They'll dig, precious things out of the ground and deplete the soil and deplete the earth and suck water out of the ground, all for money.
So it's money. Money is the...
That's not even worth anything except, the value we put on it.
We suck this resource out of the ground that took 8 billion years to create. And we're squandering it all in 80 years? when we could save it for the things that it really matters for, when you truly need like some sort of pharmaceutical made from oil. I've heard that argument, well, we need oil for all the medicines.
Not if you live healthily.
Right, exactly.
There might be some medicines that could be helpful if you have some kind of birth defect or something that you can't heal through natural methods, but most drugs, in my opinion, are needless if people live properly.
The more you think about it, the more depressing it is, man. I mean,
I just try to stay in motion to
keep your brain out of commotion. Like
you can tell I gotta keep moving.
You can tell I'm overdue for a bike ride. If you're in the cancer alley of the Mississippi River and that nitrate runoff, now people will say, oh, let's clean it up and cash everyone out and relocate them. Well, how are you going to cash out and relocate the fish, the birds, the wildlife, the soil life? And how are you going to clean that up? How the hell do we clean up a cancer bomb? A bomb, John, which has already detonated over hundreds of thousands of miles of waterways and hundreds of miles of area. You got to be part of the solution. You can keep making profit off the problem, or you can be part of the solution and do what he teaches you. It's your choice, period. As I said earlier, bye-bye oil. Soil over oil, or is that just too radical? I mean, like I said, what's radical? I'll tell you, it's this whole freaking society whose fabric now runs on big oil and chemicals. That's what's radical, John. Have we just created a sick system that's too big to fail now?
I hope not. I mean, it's the system's got everybody basically working as much as they need to work just to basically pay the bills and make it to next month, and then they don't have time to worry about anything else in the world.
Right. I mean, there was actually more awareness when I moved here in the 80s.
Everything costs so much money, and
even though
wages go down and everything goes up.
So by keeping everyone enslaved,
nobody has time to think about what's more important in life.
What is more important? None of this is important. I live in a live-work condominium complex surrounded by angry a-holes, and they get up every day and commute to those JOBs. They're just over brokes on a concrete corridor of death known as a freeway. How about a deathway? And they are just too busy, like you said, to do anything. I don't think anyone here follows you. We're like the hippie business that they all hate. You've heard me rant about that here. Time for me to move to Humboldt. So yeah, we've created a system that feels too big to fail. Do you think in your lifetime you'll see some signs that system that you and I are now pronouncing is too big to fail? If we don't transition to that barter thing, we're pretty doomed. We know currency, it's just making too much money off this instant gratification, our convenience, our addiction to amusing ourselves, That song by Roger Waters, Amused to Death. How the alien species land on this planet and they find us grouped around our TV sets and they log down all the data on their lists. And the only explanation that they have left is that this species has amused itself to death. We ate our last few jars of caviar, we drove our racing cars. It was the greatest show on earth. And then that keen-eyed lookout from the universe spied a flickering light. And what was it? Everything I've just been ranting about. Our last hurrah. Our last hurrah. As we bought and sold. As we partied our way. As we jumped on our cruise ships and flew our planes and went down in flames. So John, like I said just now in that rant, how many of these conveniences would you be willing to give up to the point of living in just a canvas teepee surrounded by compost worms the size of snakes? Beautiful worms, living soil, a composting toilet with your vegan humanure, and nothing else. How willing are you, if that's what's going to guarantee something that we can leave to the next generation? Because that's literally what it's come down to.
I mean, I'm not going to sacrifice my life and my comfort. I'll do a lot of those things. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'll do humanure toilets. I'll have worms the size of snakes. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'll live in a teepee and I need my internet to continue to share my message, I need to have Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. I'll have solar panels, or actually, I don't even want to get solar panels on my next property. I'm looking at basically turbines to a stream runs on my property year round. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to use a turbine in the stream, which is better than solar panels, and then generate electricity from that. So and when I go shopping, I don't use plastic bags. I'll just find an empty cardboard box, usually from soda cans, and I'll just use a box and I'll put my stuff in there and carry that out to checkout, you know, and then I'll sometimes compost the cardboard and put in my compost. I'll shred it and compost it, or I'll of course recycle the cardboard wherever it goes and how much more resources it takes. So like, you know, I encourage everybody to do the best they can. Just make some steps. Like if you're using bags every time, hey, like do what John does, man. Get a cardboard box, you know, and then shred it up and put in your compost pile. Like I think that's what it's really going to take, because most people are not going to just live in a teepee and ohm in the woods, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know. So we need to make steps in that direction. There should be financial incentives to do some of these things, and actually laws to maybe not force, but make people move that direction, I think would be really important. I mean, I would, of course, you know, my how I live now, Josh, is my goal. First, I harvest things from my garden to eat, right? If I don't have enough or need to fill in, then I buy local produce from farmers markets. I visited 2 farmers markets this weekend. The next thing is I visit local farms to buy produce to be able to eat, you know, trying to source as much things from my garden, farmers markets, and local as possible. If that's not possible, then I try to buy, you know, organic produce from the store, and I try to be mindful about buying things that are more, you know, U.S. based versus out of the country, or less food miles, of course. And then, of course, I eat a plant-based diet.
Yeah,
you know, so
that's huge.
Instantly plant-based diet, even if it's organic bananas imported from Ecuador, is still way better than U.S. domestic cows grown on corn and soy and GMO.
The stuff
and
that was
water.
in all the manure.
And creating more manure to put in bags to sell at Home Depot.
$1 a bag 10 years ago.
So it's like, I'm not going to say I'm perfect, because I'm not, but you know, hey, if people did some of these small things that just change, instead of just going randomly getting, and then I basically buy a lot of foods whole, and I process them myself, so I don't buy things in, like, you know, packaging like most Americans will buy all these canned foods, all these frozen foods. I just eat fresh foods,
unprocessed,
you know?
fresh,
so
raw,
like from like
local.
think bulk bins, or just thinking, you know, bulk things I buy.
But if that food distribution system, you know, if the carbon footprint honestly can't support that, you know, for a next generation, like you'd explore options for, well, I guess in Puerto Rico.
Well, when I'm in Puerto Rico, Josh, I'm going to grow 99% of my food, and I'm barely going to eat anything outside, because once I have everything established, like I'm going to have nut trees, I'm going to have fruit trees, I'm going to have, you know, sweet potatoes, I'm going to have greens, I'm going to have everything I need. So like then at that point I could like back out of the system.
So I'll need to do the same thing in Humboldt, in our meadow, our future vegan bike camp, you know.
I mean, that's what everybody needs to do. Just take steps in the right direction.
I mean, everything grows there.
Be more self-sufficient for ourselves. I mean, in Puerto Rico, I'm going to have to make my own power or water, because you can't depend on the government to do that.
Yeah.
If there's a hurricane, you need to have your own sources, so you're...
And the locals, you know, why waste a good crisis? Like the locals took... So I've heard some positive, you know, in the light of the hurricanes and the loss of the power grid that everyone was so petrochemically addicted to, they've established microgrid technology in Puerto Rico, so it can be used. So it doesn't need to be as radical as a teepee with nothing else. But still, I mean, even then, you know what I mean? When we're living that pura vida, as you espouse, and as a lot of your followers, there's a lot of you out there, the GYGers, you know, practice. I mean, your carbon footprint, when I say it takes 10 calories of fossil fuel energy for a calorie of food energy packaged and sold in the American supermarket today, I mean, you're like, you know, so like 1-2% of that compared to, you know,
the average American, which outnumbers me like 1,000 to 1.
10,000.
Maybe 10,000.
100,000. 100,000.
Not many people like crazy as I am.
Yep, it's not crazy. It's not crazy to live with that kind of purity. And then meat, you know, the meat consumption. I mean, in World War II, people couldn't get their meat, and they ate maybe one Sunday meal, you know, with meat. And our bodies, okay, we can get into this. I have a lot of GYG customers who go hunting, who believe in free range and blah, blah, blah.
It's a quantity, Josh. It's a quantity.
Quality over quantity.
It's quantity and quality.
Well, because you eat that much meat, your body's going to generate so much uric acid. And so our society with these ads, you know, from Big Macs and onwards as we're kids, you know, and trained to think we need meat every day. And then, my God, you know, the havoc that wreaks in your body. And I mean, really.
And the environment.
Well, yeah, not to mention, let's just pretend that the life's a bed of roses, and somehow these cattle, these pork, pigs, I mean, and these, you know, everything, all the factory farm creatures, the chickens are all raised without any environmental issues and humanely. Our bodies aren't. We can't
process that much meat.
No, we can't. I mean, my house cat has 400 times or 40 times, I forget what it is, hundreds, dozens, doesn't matter, many, many times more hydrochloric acid production than my gut does. I've been vegan for 30 something years, or quasi-vegan. I've cheated occasionally and, some goat cheese or something with an egg in it. But basically, anyways, we could talk about all day. Let's get back on point. What you're willing to give up in the face of this disaster that's happened, that's so exposing us all to our chemotocracy. And John, that gets me to the next question. How vulnerable does this event make you feel?
Didn't really affect me. If it wasn't in my backyard, it's like it's happened somewhere else. It's not my problem. That's probably most Americans think.
NIMBY, not in my backyard. How many commercial rail yards that pull toxic, hazardous materials through the area that is most of the time your home exist? You have to research that. But how many of you live in the vicinity of, a lot of effing chemicals, bro?
Yeah.
How many? We want to know. We're asking you. What are you willing to do about it? Be half as radical as I am? Shouldn't we all be outraged? Don't you think, John, that the existence of these compounds is kind of a crime? Isn't it a crime? Isn't I say that earlier? It's a crime against humanity?
I agree. They should be outlawed. There was a movie I watched many years ago called Blue Vinyl. Mm-hmm. And it's about people living next to PVC factories and like cancer and all these things. Even living in Hawaii, living next to GMO, places and things that they get sprays and runoff and chemical pesticide poisoning and cancer rates go up dramatically and all these things, man. If you live so everybody should research it. Mm-hmm. And if you live somewhere where there's runoff and stuff, man, move immediately, man. Sell your place. It ain't worth it.
Or a military base.
Yeah, military
right here in Sonoma County, the most toxic
pollution.
The most toxic groundwater in Sonoma County is between here and Sebastopol, out in that beautiful Laguna de Santa Rosa watershed, where they had an air base. The chemicals that are, if you're on well water off of Sonoma County Water District water on your own private well water off Sebastopol Road, like out there west of Lee Ballisters where you go to get your rock dust. Oh yeah, the groundwater there's tainted, Again, these are military installations. Isn't that sad? That's what we're being protected with.
Military industrial complex.
Yeah, these people, these poor, oh my God, and then you think of these poor servicemen being paid nothing to go and sacrifice themselves for our freedom. Our freedom, this freedom to be addicted to this chemotocracy? How many of the wars that we fought, like Gulf War 1, 2, were about oil and resources, just about all of them. And that's Hitler's greatest evil, bro. Besides the senseless slaughter of millions of helpless lives. So, okay, I think I've said this before, but in 6 years, more money was made off big oil in World War II than had been ever made in all of human history combined, right? And then you had, now the oil barons, it's like people just get so addicted to the money or something. How much is enough? So these corporations that were already huge now are 100 times bigger than they've ever been. And the money they've made off both sides, the German Luftwaffe, the British Royal Air Force, and then the U.S. planes and ships, right? They made money off everything. War makes money for this military machine. And the chemicals, just the additives alone, and let alone the oil consumption. Oh, now we're not going to make that money. We've turned off that tap. The heroes have come home. Oh, Hitler made this thing called an Autobahn for the Blitzkrieg to take tanks across Poland and Europe, right? Oh, let's turn these into these freeways, deathways, and create something called suburbia. Oh, and we'll put 2 vehicles in every driveway. We'll invent something called car credit, which didn't exist, I'm sure of it, before World War II. And we'll give every serviceman who's our hero that fought for our freedom to come back to this new reality. And General Motors and Firestone Tire and Standard Oil, they all paid $1 fine for conspiring to take down the world's greatest railroad network. Now we have a railroad network that Albania would be ashamed of, and that the corporate warlords are too cheap to run safely, and that we use for transportation of massive chemicals instead of ourselves safely. They had electric trains back then. Oh my God! In 80 years, this has happened. My whole point, John. I'll cut it short. This whole transformation to this chemotocracy, petrotocracy, this oil economy, this whole petrochemical addiction cycle. It started after World War II. And let me tell you this, the 50s, the way our grandparents all just embraced it, to where your dad was now a young man that went to the Korean War. You know, he surfed right into that momentum, right? That happened quicker than smartphones, bro. That literally happened quicker than the effing iPhone. People took longer to adapt to using something that's in the Bible. We're all going to be staring at tablets, right? To this screen thing, right? And all this madness now, AI and all that. That whole transformation to that oil economy and the chemotocracy that those poor folks in East Palestine, Ohio right now are all suffering from. That happened so effing fast, dude. Now, can GYGers undo it equally as quickly?
No way.
No way.
We just got to take steps in the right direction, guys. That's what I'm going to tell you.
So we went down this slippery slope of self-destruction that we now have to, if those of us with the brains who aren't just busy amusing ourselves to death, as Roger Waters says, that we have to like try to crawl out of, and you're offering with every episode you broadcast. How to make your own worm castings, make your own biochar, make your own hummus, your own compost, and do everything you can to live as locally and as healthily as possible. John, the sheer scale of our petrochemical addiction is utterly mental, bro. To the point where even environmentally conscious folks like myself, or Erin B. herself, are just left reeling, like in utter bewilderment. We're all bewildered by this, the true impact of this experience. And are we, as a collective species, collectively insane? Like, how was this completely unsustainable system allowed to proliferate in the first place? I mean, like I said, shouldn't these compounds be banned forever? Shouldn't the entire petrochemical corporatocracy as we know it be indicted for crimes against humanity and against the planet to boot? Why is there this market-based system? That's where I start to go get biblical, because you know what, dude? You know, I go biblical on this because the scale of this is biblical, and there's some pretty dark satanic forces that have enabled all of this. And is Wall Street going to really keep holding us hostage? Aren't our possessions what own us? Aren't these same possessions so toxic? What we own owns us, John. Look at single-use plastics, bro. I mean, do you remember when bottled water was considered yuppie madness? You do, right?
Everybody buys it in such bulk. It's insane.
And nowadays, the bottled water industry is another one of Wall Street's darlings, generating billions for those same corporatocracies. The same thing that comes down to our individual choices, and my hope is that this event in Ohio can trigger that collective national reckoning that we just must divorce ourselves from our petro addiction as fast as possible. This is a dire, urgent situation. What's going on with our society's convenience addictions is totally dysfunctional, but something tells me, bro, people are still gonna be in it, and they'll continue allowing that status quo to fester. And until each and every one of us can demonstrate that total commitment to this, getting rid of this enslavement once and for all, things are only going to get worse. There's no denying that recent episode in Ohio. It represents our total crisis that we find ourselves in. John, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. Let's not waste another day in doing something to resolve this. What do you have to say?
Everybody just needs to take a step in the right direction, right? If it's not a leap, take a small little inch. Start growing some food. I know a lot of you guys have been watching me for a while and you haven't. Start growing your own stuff. Eat more of the stuff that you grew in your backyard. If you eat meat, keep your own chickens, man. Eat their eggs, cut their heads off. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
Do it. But, you know, I want everybody out there to eat more plants also. You know, eat a plant-based diet. I'm not saying go vegan. I'm just going to say plant-based diet where you eat a lot of plants and less meat. That's going to be more sustainable for the planet. Use a cardboard box instead of taking a bag. You know, try to, you know, buy things in bulk and prepare things at home. You could make things healthier than they pre-make for you when they add salt and oil. What do you always say? Be a producer, right? Yeah, be a producer, not a consumer. I mean, I'm not the genius that came up with that. Another guy told me that many years ago.
And how much do you and I, we suffer both guilt complexes on not entirely being producers. We still consume.
We've got to just do the best.
We have
I try
our
to
carbon
produce
footprint
as
too.
much as we can.
Yeah.
And nobody's perfect. So like know that we're not perfect individuals, and we're on our own path, doing as much as we can to make a little difference in the world.
And vote with our dollars. Like, just stop buying anything that isn't 100% natural. Like, shop at food co-ops, or insist your local supermarket, has the Dr. Bronner soap, instead of this death corridor of detergents.
And buy things that'll last. I mean,
Right.
we live in a disposable society, man, and
so
it's just
disposable.
like, buy something high quality and good that's gonna last you, instead of just some cheap garbage juicer or whatever from Amazon for $50 because it's cheap, and then it breaks, and then you can't get parts because the customer service is over in China. They don't even speak English. And there's so many products like that, right? Buy quality, not quantity.
How did that
spend a little
happen,
more.
dude? Like, since
Convenience, instant
Convenience.
gratification, and it's like, oh, I
grab
can
a
get something
grab
for
a
cheap.
plastic water bottle, that's sort of symptomatic of everything, right? Everything's just
Yeah.
disposable now. Everything is disposable.
People are lazy.
Even
they
your
don't want to
phone,
do the extra
you're supposed
work.
to get a new phone every 2 years. Now what do you do with the old one? Everything's disposable. It's so disgusting, dude. I mean, the more I get into this, the more depressed I get. I'm not gonna lie.
You just gotta do, just do what you can, and just try to get people to take an inch step in the right direction. That's it.
What hope would you offer those people of East Palestine right now, bro?
I have no clue. Dude.
I'm
not there.
Would
I
you
can't even know.
There's no
or
answers.
Even figure out what they could. I mean, I would freaking move if
Right.
I lived there. I would be like, I'm out of here.
But they can't. They're stuck, bro. And a lot of them have worked for the corporatocracies for their whole lives, and there's some of them watching us right now, and they can't even sell the homes that no longer have equity in them.
Wow.
Because of our chemotocracy. Exactly, wow. And even you can't, would you eat any produce from there? Hell no.
That's why I would get the hell out of there.
You're
as soon as I
chemically
could.
sensitive, right?
Yeah, no, I would totally get out of there. Because you could replace money, you can't replace your health.
Exactly.
You can't replace time, more importantly, Josh.
Right. Now's the time. And he's going to keep donating his time for all of us to keep in this effort together, man. Thank you so much. That was a good episode.
All right, man, cool.
Yeah.